The Go-Giver, a little story about a powerful business idea, by Bob Burg and John David Mann. Introduction. What if I told you that the secret to getting everything you've ever wanted lies in giving it all away? It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? A riddle. The kind of thing you might hear from a monk on a mountaintop, but not from a successful CEO or a legendary consultant. In our world, we're taught to be go-getters. We're told that success is a competition, a race to the top where you have to hustle harder, work faster, and look out for number one. And for an ambitious young man named Joe, that was the only way he knew. He was a true go-getter, aiming for the stars, yet he felt like the harder he pushed, the further away his goals seemed to drift. He was doing all the right things, but he was doing a lot of going and not a whole lot of getting. He was at a breaking point, desperate to land a sale that would save his quarter, maybe even his career. And in that moment of quiet desperation, he stumbled upon a secret. A secret so simple, so counterintuitive, that most people just laugh when they hear it. A secret held by an enigmatic old mentor known only as the chairman. That secret is the heart of a little book that has quietly become a global phenomenon, The Go-Giver. Written by Bob Burg and John David Mann, this small parable has sold millions of copies and has been translated into dozens of languages, not through a massive marketing campaign, but because its message is so powerful it spreads from one person to another, like a whispered truth. Today, we're going to step into Joe's shoes. We're going to join him on a week-long journey that will turn everything he thought he knew about success completely upside down. By the end of our time together, you will understand the 5 laws of stratospheric success, 5 simple principles that are the foundation for the world's most accomplished and fulfilled people. This isn't just about business or making money. It's about a fundamental shift in how you see the world, your relationships, and your own potential. It's about discovering that the most fulfilling and successful life you can live is one built not on getting, but on giving. So, get comfortable, and let's begin the story. Book summary. Our story begins with Joe. And Joe is struggling. He's ambitious, he's a hard worker, but he feels stuck on a treadmill. He's at the end of a bad quarter, and he's just lost a massive account he was counting on. The big kahuna, he called it. He's frustrated, desperate, and feels like he's missing some secret ingredient, some kind of clout and leverage that other people seem to have. In a moment of desperation, he decides to seek out a legendary consultant, a man so influential that people simply call him the chairman. His real name is Pindar. Joe imagines this will be an impossible task, that he'll have to fight his way through gatekeepers and assistants. But to his astonishment, he gets an appointment for the very next day, a Saturday morning. When Joe arrives at Pindar's home, a magnificent stone mansion, he's greeted not by a stuffy, intimidating tycoon, but by a warm, smiling man in his 60s who welcomes him as if he were an old friend. Pindar shares a surprising observation he once heard from the famous interviewer Larry King: the bigger people are, the nicer they are. He explains that to reach truly stratospheric levels of success, people need something genuine on the inside. Sitting on the terrace with a breathtaking view, Pindar gets right to the point. He tells Joe he's willing to share his ultimate trade secret. Joe leans in, expecting a complex formula or a brilliant strategy. Instead, Pindar speaks a single word: giving. Joe is bewildered. Giving? That's the secret? It sounds too simple, too naive. Pindar just smiles. He explains that most people operate with a scarcity mindset. They approach life like someone standing before a cold fireplace, demanding, "First give me heat, and then I'll add the wood." They want the results before they're willing to put in the effort, before they're willing to give. But life doesn't work that way. Pindar tells Joe, the secret to success is giving. He pauses. Then again, Most people are nowhere near as successful as they wish they were. He then makes Joe an offer. He will teach him the 5 laws of stratospheric success, meeting with him for 1 hour each day for the next week. But there's a condition. A single, non-negotiable rule. Joe must agree to apply each law the very same day he learns it. He can't just think about it, he has to do it. It's an honor system. If he fails, their meetings will end. Intrigued and a little skeptical, Joe agrees. His week of transformation is about to begin. On Monday, Pindar takes Joe to a bustling Italian restaurant. It's owned by a cheerful, larger-than-life man named Ernesto, who greets them like family. Joe assumes Ernesto is just the head chef. Pindar asks Ernesto to tell Joe how he got his start, and Ernesto's answer is surprising: hot dogs. Ernesto tells the story of how he arrived in the city with just enough money to buy a hot dog cart. It was hard at first, but he poured his heart into it. He didn't just sell hot dogs, he created an unforgettable experience. He remembered the names of the children who visited his cart, their favorite colors, their birthdays. He made every customer, big or small, feel special and appreciated. Soon, his little cart wasn't just a place to eat, it was the city's best outdoor dining experience. His reputation for extraordinary service caught the attention of a group of executives, including a mysterious figure Ernesto calls the Connector. They were so impressed that they invested in him, helping him open his first restaurant. From there, his empire grew. Joe is stunned to learn that this friendly chef is not only the owner of a half-dozen restaurants but also a real estate magnate worth hundreds of millions of dollars. How did he do it? Ernesto explains that a good restaurant gives you good value for your money. But a great restaurant strives to give you a level of food and service that money can't possibly buy. Its goal is to defy expectations. And with that, Ernesto reveals the first law. The law of value: your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Joe is confused. That sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy. Ernesto clarifies. Asking "does it make money?" isn't a bad question, it's just a bad first question. The first question must always be, does it serve? Does it add value to others? If the answer is yes, then profitable things will naturally begin to happen. It's not a strategy, he says, it's a way of life. You give because you love to. Later that day, back at his office, Joe is wrestling with this idea. How can he apply it? Just then, he gets a call from a lawyer, Jim Galloway, who regretfully informs him that he's lost another account because his firm lacks strong overseas connections. Joe's first instinct is frustration. But then, he remembers the law of value. He takes a deep breath, opens a file of his competitors, and finds the business card of a man who is known for his international strength. He gives the name and number to Jim. He just gave business to a competitor. It feels completely insane, but he has fulfilled the condition. The next day, Joe meets the second go-giver. Her name is Nicole Martin, the CEO of a massively successful educational software company. But when Joe arrives at her office, he's bewildered. The conference room looks like a kindergarten classroom, filled with modeling clay, finger paints, and pipe cleaners. And Nicole herself isn't a stern executive, she's a warm, vibrant woman who looks to be about his own age. Nicole explains that she started as a grade school teacher who was frustrated by a system that focused on memorization. She invented a series of creative games to help her students truly learn, but she could only reach 25 kids at a time. And she was barely making ends meet. She was giving immense value, but her compensation was low. She realized that the law of value only determines your potential worth. The second law determines how much you actually earn. Driven by a desire to help more children, she partnered with a software engineer and a marketing expert, both parents of her students. to turn her games into software. A man she also calls the connector helped them find the initial funding. Today, her company reaches millions of children around the world. And this leads her to the second law. The law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. It's not just about the quality of your service, it's about the scale of your impact. A teacher provides incredible value but serves a small number of people. An entertainer might provide less noble value, but they serve millions, which is why their income is so high. Nicole wanted more success, so she found a way to serve more people. The beauty of this law, she explains, is that it puts you in control. There are no limits to what you can earn, because you can always find more people to serve. Joe's homework for that day feels a bit silly. He can't suddenly expand his client base to millions. So what can he do? He remembers the delicious coffee Rachel, Pinder's housekeeper, had served him. He takes a freshly ground bag back to the office and spends the next half hour brewing and serving a perfect cup of coffee to every single person on his floor, some of whom he barely knew. He served more people. He felt a little foolish, but he did it. On Wednesday, Joe meets the third mentor, Sam Rosen, a legendary financial advisor whose offices occupy the top floor of the city's most prestigious building. Sam is a warm, white-haired gentleman who immediately puts Joe at ease. He's the single most successful person in his company's history, but he tells Joe that he started out as a terrible salesman. His career only took off when he stopped focusing on what he could get and started focusing on what he could give. But the real secret, he says, is building a network. Not just a list of contacts, but an army of personal walking ambassadors, people who are personally invested in seeing you succeed, because you are just as invested in them. And how do you build such a network? Sam leans in and gives Joe the key. Stop keeping score. He explains that so-called win-win thinking is often just a disguised way of making sure everything is even. I scratched your back, so now you owe me. That's not a friendship, that's being a creditor. The only winning proposition is 100%. Forget 50-50. Focus entirely on the other person's win. This leads to the third law. The law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Joe struggles with this. It sounds noble, but how does it lead to success? Pindar explains that when you focus on other people's interests, your own interests are always taken care of. People are drawn to givers. Givers attract. True influence doesn't come from power or money. Influence creates those things. That night, Joe gets home late, exhausted. His wife, Susan, is equally stressed. They have an unwritten rule, 30 minutes of complaint time each, and no more. Tonight, Susan is venting about a difficult situation at her job. As her time runs out, she stops herself, saying, "Fair's fair." The phrase hits Joe. Fair's fair. 50-50. He hears Sam's voice in his head. That's not being a friend. That's being a creditor. In that moment, he makes a choice. He tells Susan to keep going, that he wants to hear it all. His own work can wait. He doesn't offer solutions. He just listens. He listens as she pours her heart out, talking about her fears and frustrations, until she cries herself to sleep in his arms. He feels useless, like he didn't solve anything. He's so wrapped up in it that he forgets he was supposed to apply the law of influence. The next morning, he wakes up in a panic, realizing he's failed the condition. But then he finds a note on Susan's pillow. It reads, "My sweet Joe, thank you for your generosity. I can't remember ever feeling so listened to. So heard. I love you." He hadn't been generous with advice or solutions. He had been generous with his attention. He had placed her interests first. He had done the homework after all. On Thursday, Joe attends a large sales symposium where the keynote speaker is Deborah Davenport, the city's top real estate agent. She takes the stage to a standing ovation and tells her story. She was a stay-at-home mom who, at age 42, was left by her husband with 3 kids to support. She had no marketable skills and was told she was overage and underqualified. Desperate, she got her real estate license and spent a year trying every closing technique in the book, from the assumptive close to the shame close. After a full year, she hadn't sold a single house. She hated every minute of it and decided to quit. On her very last day, she had one final appointment she couldn't get out of. Feeling she had nothing left to lose, she threw all the techniques out the window. She didn't even bring a spec sheet. She just talked with the client, like a friend. She was just herself. And, of course, the woman bought the house. Deborah learned a powerful lesson that day. The marketplace didn't want her sales techniques. It wanted her. It wanted her warmth, her care, her friendship. She had been trying so hard to be a salesperson that she had forgotten how to be a person. This brings her to the 4th law. The law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. She explains that specific skills are only 10% of success. The other 90% is people skills. And the foundation of all people skills isn't about being a good listener or caring about others, it's about being yourself. No matter what you think you're selling, you're really selling you. Hearing this, something shifts in Joe. On the drive back, he confesses to Pindar the real reason he sought him out. It wasn't to learn about success, it was to use Pindar's clout and connections to land the big kahuna account. He was trying to be a schemer, someone he wasn't. He feels ashamed, but Pindar just smiles gently. That's not the real reason you came, he says. The real reason you came is that you were hungry to learn about genuine success. Later, back at the office, Joe feels compelled to confess to his quiet, unassuming coworker, Gus, the one who first gave him Pindar's contact information. He tells Gus that he used to think he was old-fashioned and naive. By being honest and vulnerable, he is applying the law of authenticity. And then, the pieces all fall into place. Gus reveals that he has known Pindar for decades. He was the one who introduced Pindar to Sam Rosen. He was the one who invested in Ernesto's hot dog stand. He was the one who connected Deborah Davenport with Ernesto. And he was an early investor in Nicole Martin's software company. Gus is the connector. Joe is flabbergasted. This quiet man, who sits in a small office and seems to do no work, is a multi-millionaire and the hub of this incredible network. Why does he still work here? Gus just winks. An old man's gotta have some fun. Finally, it's Friday. The last day. Joe arrives at Pindar's mansion for his final lesson. He and Pindar sit on the terrace, waiting for the mysterious Friday guest who will reveal the final law. As they wait, Joe admits he's struggling with one final hurdle. He was raised to believe that it is better to give than to receive. Being a good person means you give without thinking of receiving, but he can't help but think about receiving, which makes him feel selfish and unworthy of this whole philosophy. Pindar offers a simple but profound analogy. He asks Joe to try exhaling for 30 seconds without inhaling. Of course, Joe can't do it. Pindar explains, it's not better to give than to receive. It's insane to try to give and not receive. Refusing to receive is arrogant. It denies the other person their right to give. Giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. They're like breathing in and breathing out. You cannot have one without the other. The entire universe works this way. Plants give oxygen, which we receive. We give carbon dioxide, which they receive. Every act of giving is only possible because there is also an act of receiving. The secret to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. Suddenly, Joe gets it. All the giving in the world won't lead to success unless you allow yourself to receive. Being open to receiving isn't selfish, it's essential. It's what keeps the cycle of value flowing. And with that flash of insight, Joe realizes he has just discovered the final law himself. The law of receptivity. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. Pindar smiles. Who was supposed to reveal the last law? Joe asks. The Friday guest? Ah, the Friday guest, Pindar replies. That would be you, my friend. Joe returns to his office that afternoon to learn the final, crushing news. He officially lost the Big Kahuna account. His third quarter is a failure. By all measures of a go-getter, he has lost. But strangely, while he feels disappointment, he doesn't feel defeated. He feels calm. He understands that success isn't measured by a single account. It's about who you're becoming. As the office empties, the phone rings. It's a man named Neil Hansen, the very competitor who won the Big Kahuna account. He's in a jam. He got Joe's name from Ed Barnes, the other competitor Joe had referred business to on Monday. Hansen has a massive client, a global hotel chain, that needs a supplier for premium, high-volume coffee for a launch in just 3 weeks, and he can't find anyone who can do it. Joe takes a long, slow breath. He thinks of Rachel and her global network of coffee growers. He thinks of the 5 laws. He thinks of the flow of giving and receiving. He smiles into the phone. You know, he says, I just might know someone. The story jumps forward a year. A young woman named Claire is nervously walking to an interview at a company that has seen a stratospheric rise in less than a year. The company is called Rachel's Famous Coffee. Claire has lost the marketing contract she was pitching for, but the company's founder has asked to meet with her anyway. That founder is Joe. He tells Claire that while she didn't get the contract, they were incredibly impressed with her talent and, more importantly, her heart. He then offers her an even bigger opportunity, to run the global fundraising for their new foundation, which is dedicated to helping coffee-growing communities around the world. Claire is speechless. She asks him the same question Joe had asked Pindar a year earlier. How does he do it? How does he create these amazing situations? What is the secret? Joe just smiles. He tells her that a question like that deserves a full answer. And he promises to give it to her, over lunch. Have you ever been to Euphrates? He asks. There's someone there I'd like you to meet. The circle is complete. The go-getter has become the go-giver. And now, it is his turn to share the secret. Commentary. What a beautiful story, isn't it? When you first hear the premise of the go-giver, it can sound almost too simple. Too idealistic for the real world. And yet, I believe its simplicity is precisely where its power lies. In a world that constantly bombards us with complex strategies for success, this book brings us back to a fundamental, human truth. The most successful people, in every aspect of life, are the givers. Let's quickly revisit the 5 laws, because they are more than just rules for business, they are principles for living a rich and meaningful life. First, the law of value. Give more than you take in payment. This isn't about working for free. It's about a mindset of generosity. It's about aiming to surprise and delight people with the excellence of your work and the sincerity of your care. Whether you're flipping burgers, writing code, or leading a company, the question is always the same: how can I add more value to this person's life? Second, the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. This is the law of impact. It reminds us that if we want to increase our rewards, we must first increase our reach. It challenges us to think bigger, to find ways to scale our gifts so we can touch more lives. Your value is your potential. Your compensation is your impact made real. Third, the law of influence. Place other people's interests first. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive of all. We live in a culture that screams, "Look out for number one." This law whispers, "Look out for the other person, and you will be taken care of." True influence isn't about commanding or demanding. It's about earning trust. It's about becoming the person others seek out because they know, without a doubt, that you have their best interests at heart. Fourth, the law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have is yourself. How often do we hide behind a mask? We try to be the person we think our boss, our clients, or our friends want us to be. This law gives us permission to be real. It reminds us that our unique personality, our quirks, our genuine care, these are not weaknesses to be hidden, but strengths to be shared. People don't connect with a perfect resume. They connect with a real person. And finally, the law of receptivity. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. This is the law that ties it all together. Giving is not a one-way street. It's a cycle. You cannot breathe out forever. To deny receiving is to stop the flow, to dam the river. Being a gracious receiver is an act of generosity in itself. It allows the giver to complete their gift. So how can you start applying these ideas today, right now? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. 1. Practice the law of value. The next time you do something for someone, a friend, a family member, a customer, ask yourself, how can I add 10% more value than they're expecting? Maybe it's a handwritten thank you note. Maybe it's doing a task with just a little more care and attention to detail. Exceed an expectation today. 2. Practice the law of influence. In your next conversation, commit to listening more than you speak. Forget about what you want to say next, and focus completely on understanding the other person's needs, hopes, or problems. Place their world at the center of the conversation, just for a few minutes. See what happens. 3. Practice the law of receptivity. The next time someone gives you a compliment, resist the urge to deflect it or downplay it. Just smile, look them in the eye, and say, "Thank you." That's it. Allow yourself to fully receive their gift of kindness. The journey of the go-giver isn't about becoming a martyr. It's about understanding that your own success and fulfillment are a natural byproduct of focusing on bringing value to others. It's a shift from asking, "What can I get?" to asking, "What can I give?" And as Joe discovered, when you make that shift, the world has a funny way of giving you back more than you could ever have imagined. That was The Core of the Go-Giver by Bob Burg and John David Mann. We've explored the main story and the 5 laws today, but let me be clear, a summary, no matter how detailed, is like looking at a photograph of a magnificent feast. You can see what's on the table, but you can't taste it. The true nourishment comes from experiencing the book for yourself. It's a short read, a simple parable, but its lessons are profound. If any part of Joe's journey resonated with you, I encourage you to pick up a copy. It's a story that stays with you, a quiet reminder that the most powerful force in the world is a generous heart. The link to the book is waiting for you in the description below. And if you found value in our time together today, please consider hitting that subscribe button. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning, and let's keep growing together.